Morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, back down here at the Pathfinder Outdoor Classroom. What I want to talk to you guys today about is a way to use a bowline knot as a midline loop for pulling or towing. It's a very useful knot for that purpose because you can use something in the middle of the line if you have a very long piece of rope and you only need, say, a 20-foot length out of 100 feet for a tow rope, and you need a loop on both ends to attach to, then you can use this directional style midline bowline for your attachment point to pull. Now, not only could you use this midline loop for something like shortening the line so you've got a loop on both ends, but your end loop is midline because you're not using all of your rope. You could also use that midline loop for something like a snatch block if you're trying to do some type of directional pull with a winch or with a pulley system. So it works for multiple applications, and because you tie it very similarly to tying a bowline knot, it works out well. So let's talk about the way we tie a bowline knot here at the Pathfinder School and kind of demonstrate that for you really quick in case you're unfamiliar. And we're going to use that same technique to tie this inline bowline. It'll be a double loop when we're done that I'll show you. And the key to understanding knots really is muscle memory. And the fewer knots you need to know, the better off you are. And the bowline is a good one. And it also can stem from other knots. And that's what's the good thing about it is you can tie a bowline very easily from a marlin spike hitch. And a marlin spike hitch is something we use quite often here at the school. So we teach the marlin spike hitch first and the bowline off of that. And then you can use this double loop midline bowline from that if you understand how to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about first. Okay, so let's talk about our bowline loop first. To tie a marlin spike hitch, we obviously, if this is the standing end and this is the running end of our line, we're going to turn an overhand loop and run that up the line toward the standing end. And that is going to give us this configuration, which is a marlin spike. If we leave that marlin spike open and we take this tag end and we run it through toward ourselves, and we capture it on the other side like this, when this turns over the top like this, it will become a bowline knot. We're going to use that same concept to tie this double inline bowline loop. So now if we take this and we move out a little bit on it, and say we need a loop midline, we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to go here, we're going to turn it up toward the standing end, and we're going to pull this out. Now we've got that starting of a marlin spike hitch and also the starting of our bowline knot. But this time we're going to take a loop of this line or a bite in this line and we're going to place it through. And we're going to grab this loop and this loop at the same time and turn everything over on top of that so that when it flips over, we have a bowline knot here and we have two loops in the line. And now we have a directional midline loop. We don't want to pull it from this direction. We want to pull it from this direction because this is the direction of our bowline knot. If we were going to do it the opposite way, then we want to tie it from the opposite direction. So looking at that one more time, we're going to turn an overhand loop in the line toward the standing end, right up the line and pull that through just like we were making a marlin spike. Except this time, instead of taking the tag end and the tail, we're going to take a bite of line through. We're going to collect that bite and this loop that we have here together and pull this down and let it ride over the top. And now we have two loops in a bowline midline that we can pull against. Now, by the same token, if we want to tie around an object and have a bowline knot, then we're going to put our rope around the object just like this. We're going to turn that underhand loop in the line, go up the line toward this end. This is our tag. Put our tag through that marlin spike, wrap it around and collect it, and when that flips over, it becomes a bowline. So that's the way to tie that bowline very quickly around an object, is just to remember that you're always starting with that marlin spike hitch, and you're never going to mess it up. So again, come here, underhand loop, ride it up the line. There's our marlin spike hitch. Take this tail, go through, collect it up, flip it over, bowline. Now we have a bowline around an object, okay? So this can be our anchor point, and then we can use that midline bowline at the other end for an anchor or for something like a midline loop that we want to put a tackling device in, like a snatch block. Okay, so let's say for sake of purpose that we want to drag this log, this piece of telephone pole, that's about 6 feet long and probably about 120 pounds. We don't want to carry this thing because we got to drag it for a good long ways. So we're just going to tow it behind our four-wheeler. But we've got a big long piece of rope here, and we don't need anywhere near this amount of space between the four-wheeler and what we're trying to tow, or it's going to be rolling all over the place and getting crazy on us. So we just need enough length here to get it close to the four-wheeler and drag it. That's the perfect opportunity to use that midline bowline. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this rope and pull it up to about where the four-wheeler's at, and that's where we're going to tie our knot and attach that to our four-wheeler, and then we can stash the rest of the rope in the four-wheeler in the back. So now we can take these two loops, we can attach them to the four-wheeler here, just like this. I don't have a good toe spot on this thing, so we're going to use this two chain points right here on the hitch. And again, we're pulling this direction, so we're fine. All of this extra rope that we have here, we can now collect up, and we can just toss it in the back of the side-by-side of the four-wheeler, whatever we're using to tow with, instead of dragging all of this line behind us as we go. All right, so now that we're done dragging this bad boy, we just pull this dude off here. And it's been under tension. And now all we need to do is break the back, just like any other bowline. Break the back open on it like that, and everything's gonna come out all by itself, nice and simple. And it's ready to use again. All right, guys, well, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and I appreciate you joining me out here for another video. Just a quick tutorial added to the rope clinic on how to use a midline bowline for a tow point or a point to attach something to for a rope tackle. They're very, very good knot to understand because it ties exactly like the bowline knot for the most part and starts exactly the same. So it's a good transitionary knot to understand so that you need to know fewer knots to get lots and lots of jobs done. I appreciate your views and I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for family, and for our business, full of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.